All right. Good morning, everyone. Tom Lozon is on his way in just a little bit. Raylene is right next to me. We have a Wednesday in front of us, Ladies' Day. We're going to be broadcasting live at 11 o'clock.
Yes.
Over at Vermont Quick Lube, which I can hardly wait for Ladies' Day. All ladies who get a oil change are going to get a free car wash and a flower and a hot dog. And, oh, my God, it's just going to be a great day. What can we say? It's going to be awesome. We're going to be giving away prizes. And
most of all, you're going to get to eat.
Yeah. How many? Do they have enough hot dogs?
Probably not.
How many hot dogs are coming? Do we know?
We hope they have a lot of hot dogs.
Yeah.
We're hoping anyway.
Did you say that they had like a couple of pounds that they were bringing?
Yeah, I believe so. And I'm trying so hard to behave myself.
No, it's okay. You don't have to behave yourself.
Anyway.
I mean, didn't you say they were bringing like 100 pounds of hot dogs?
Well, they're bringing 100 pounds of hot dogs somewhere today, but I don't think it's for this.
Oh.
Yeah. I think,
Josh is already calling it Hot Dog Gate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's going on? You're all worked up about hot dogs this morning. What's going on?
Well, I'm all worked up about hot dogs. There's an article this morning in the Times-Argus that I actually find a little hot dogs lead to hot water in Williamstown.
All right.
And apparently a recorded conversation, an unexplained leak, and in the select board's call for an independent investigation are all elements of a hot dog gate, a simmering dispute that reached a slow boil amid finger pointing and fractured relationships on Monday night in Williamstown. Unless you count board member Rodney Graham's vow never to talk to town manager Jackie Higgins outside of board meetings again, not much was resolved during the special session that got off to an awkward start and got more awkward before it was over.
Okay.
At issue, Higgins recently filed formal complaint alleging she was verbally abused by Graham during a July 13th telephone conversation, which involved the disposition of donated hot dogs stored in the freezer at the Public Safety Building and his concerns about recently created Recreation Board. So the complaint was read aloud, there was conversation, and this man wants to know where his damn hot dogs are.
Are you bullshitting me?
I am not.
Raylene, just stop fooling around and get serious. Are you bullshitting?
But will someone just get this man some freaking hot dogs?
So, you know what? Fuck it. Who's got the audio of this? Has anyone played it?
I have the audio for this.
Stepping out of the comfort zone.
Yes. I sent it to you in your messenger just now. I don't know if you've pulled it up there, but for the love of all things, will somebody just get the man some hot dogs?
Manager's office.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm kind of bothered a little bit. What gives the right of the rec board to take things from other places that were donated for a other cause, and they seem to think they can just get all that stuff?
Are you talking about the hot dogs?
Hot dogs and the rolls, yes.
We didn't take
They were not donated to the rec
Please don't forget about the rolls.
board.
They asked if they were using them and if they were donated to the town.
They weren't donated to the town. They were donated to the fire department auxiliary.
All right, now who is this? Who is this talking now?
This is Rodney Graham.
All right.
And he's kind of been a pain in the ass in the town for a long time, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just bring your mic down a little bit lower.
If you Yeah, it keeps falling anyway a little bit.
Yeah,
so.
that's perfect.
There. Is that better?
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, he's been kind of a real pain for a little while now.
Yeah.
And apparently
Does he sit on the council or something?
no, he used to and I know that he's still a part of the select board, the fire department, obviously. But in some way, I don't even know his capacity anymore.
All right.
But yeah, just get him some hot dogs.
Yeah.
Oh,
For the purpose
boy.
of the fire department to have a summer picnic.
Well, I know that William gave the rec 100 of the hot dogs, but there were a lot more in there.
Right, because they were used for the purpose they were supposed to be used. They were donated for.
I don't know. The rec board asked if they were donated to the fire department or if they were donated to the town, because they were donated for the Easter egg function that took place over there. And William told the rec board,
which was done by the fire department auxiliary in Anaheim. It's good. This board. It was never the intent of this board to take
Come on over.
control of existing, fundraisers or items. They should come up with their own ideas and buy their own stuff.
they didn't.
Now
They
they're,
didn't.
now they're looking for
Rodney,
bingo cards.
Rodney, they didn't just take it. They asked if they were specifically donated for the fire department or if they were donated for the Easter
Well, who
egg.
did they ask?
William was asked. William was asked. And there's
this has gotta
emails going
stop.
back and forth. There were emails going back and forth, Rodney.
I don't care. This
Well,
was not. This is
that's-
not right. This rec board is out of control.
Well, all William could have said was no, they were donated to the fire department.
He's not
and
going
we're
to
going
say
use
no
them.
to people
Why
he doesn't want to
is he
get in
going to
trouble.
say no to? He's not going to get in trouble.
He is going to get.
Who's he going to get
we
in
know.
trouble
We
with?
know how this town works.
Who's he going to
We
get in
know how
trouble
this
with?
town works.
This was getting pretty heated.
It got a little heated.
Tom, have you heard about the hot dog gate?
Read about it briefly this morning in the Times Argus.
Yeah, Raylene was just reading it,
and,
reading the story on the air. We just had a little bit of audio there. I mean, this is hot diggity dog. I mean, this is getting.
I think.
Tom, have you ever? Dealt
I
with-
think we've all had our hot dog moments, JD. I think.
Have you ever had ridiculous stuff like this that is gotten hot in the city?
No, never
That's
talked about
ridiculous.
cats. Never talked about putting them on leashes. Never
Chickens.
talked about chickens.
Chickens.
No.
You've
Yeah.
never had anything.
Never had those
Never.
conversations.
No.
Look, like I said, we've all had our hot dog moments. So I think I don't know. They're all. I certainly know all of the people involved, and they're all good people.
Yeah.
They're all just trying to serve, and yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Get along.
So
Sometimes
I
be
can-
tough.
I can relate to Rodney. I get very upset if somebody takes my food. Just stay the hell away from my food. That's a survival
Yeah.
for me. Tom, good morning to you.
Good morning.
We're so glad you're here.
Yeah.
Let's first of all,
well, thanks for having me.
let's
first
give
of all.
some congratulations to the lady sitting next to you. huh?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
What
Our
a
newest
you.
planning commission member.
what a wonderful just
yeah.
results last night.
Yeah, had a great. You had a great interview. You did really well, Raylene.
Thanks.
Those
Thanks.
were great answers, and yeah. So I'm excited about the good work she's going to do
It's great.
on the
Great.
planning commission.
too.
I mean, a lot going on with
Me
planning
too.
commission. We're trying to, work our way through the whole, cannabis thing because we, Barry did opt in March.
Yeah.
And so we need to look to our planning commission for some regulations in terms of specifically, I mean, we can't regulate the industry. It doesn't work like that. But we can look at where retail cannabis organizations are located within the city I have my own opinion, but for right now, because I'm sitting next to a planning commission member, I'll keep that to myself.
But you're on the planning commission, though, too.
No, I actually resigned.
When?
It was a while back.
I didn't get
when
that memo.
no, we had when I was on the planning commission prior to being elected to the council.
Okay.
Then continued when I was on. Oh,
It's all right.
dropped your. There you go.
Thank you.
Then continued while I was a counselor, and one evening we had 2 applicants for one position.
Okay.
And it occurred to me that you can't be a pig and share all of the positions for yourself.
Right.
So at that evening, because we had 2 applicants for one position, I offered to resign so that we could appoint both people.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's what we did. And it's
Okay.
worked out, well. They've been contributing members of the Planning Commission. So, as Raylene accurately said last night during her interview, it takes people with different perspectives,
Right.
to make it all work. And everyone should be heard.
In a sentence or two, what does the planning commission for Berry City do?
What do? They basically promulgate the regulations that govern our DRB. So they determine, kind of how the city is going to grow. What does a residential area look like? What are the restrictions? What are the setbacks?
Okay.
Basically, they sort of give the DRB and give the city the roadmap for future growth.
That's it. I think
That's it.
Yeah. Well, no.
Yeah,
no, you did.
they basically determine the future of the city. Well, that's not that big a deal.
No, I think it was like 7 sentences, not 2. But I mean, it's well said. That's it in a nutshell. Is what I mean.
Really, it in a nutshell. And
Okay.
One thing that Raylene said last night that stuck with me is that zoning regulations that may have worked well 10 years ago aren't working so well now.
Right.
So you've got to be forward thinking.
Yeah.
Especially with this, housing crisis that we're in, in a state like Vermont. I think one of the examples that Raylene brought up last night was accessory dwellings, or maybe the mayor might have asked her about that.
Okay.
And, again, as our population ages, there are a lot more families looking to have mom or dad or both live with a son or daughter, live with their family in a separate accessory type dwelling.
Yeah.
And we haven't done a great job providing for that because we haven't had to. There hasn't been the ask, the demand. Now there is.
Speaking of the housing crisis, Raylene and I both have been in touch with the Conover family that is moving to central Vermont via southern Oregon. And they have spent the past 7 years in Ukraine. They're now in Oregon, and mom and dad, David and I think her name is Jennifer, have both accepted positions in our local school system. 2 different schools.
Yeah.
Twinfield and Barrytown Elementary School. Their jobs start on August 7th.
Yes.
They are literally en route to central Vermont right now as we speak from Oregon and have no place.
Right. Yeah.
They have 3 kids and a dog, a little dog, a therapy dog.
Yeah.
And they have no place to move into. And I'm like, this is bothering me. I mean, these are 2 people who
bothers me every day.
They're coming to central Vermont to work in our school system to help our community, help our kids. And we don't have a place for them.
Well, and they're exactly what, when we talk about, what Vermont needs, they're a young family. And when we talk, they're 2 young professionals with a family. Listen, I share your frustration.
These aren't tourists. These aren't people looking for summer homes from Massachusetts. These are people that are coming to put the roots down here.
It is, it is incredibly frustrating. It's so frustrating on a lot of levels. If you think about, 3 years ago, if someone from state government had said, "Look, we're going to put $250 million into housing,"
right,
we would have all been, dancing in the streets, and we're grateful for that. Don't get me wrong, but it occurred to me that it's really frustrating that as we have all of these resources available and we have everyone shifting their focus to housing, the cost of constructing housing goes through the roof.
Right.
Virtually doubles.
Right.
It is, it is crazy.
And
I
then
mean, right
some.
now,
Doubles and then some.
And we've looked at those. I've looked at those costs as a professional, in my life as a developer. And, you're looking at ground-up housing costs, roughly $400 a square foot.
Yeah.
Not quite double, but damn close to double what they were 3 years ago. Supply chain issues are still. The reason I look like this is we're putting a new rooftop unit, HVAC unit on a building.
Yeah.
The reason I'm putting the new rooftop unit on, and these are rather expensive units. They're north of $10,000. The reason I'm replacing it is because it needed an $1,100 part, and we couldn't get the part. The part is on permanent back order, and so right now, I'm looking at it saying, okay, it hasn't failed, but it's going to. So do I roll the dice that I'm going to be able to get that $1,100 part and honor my obligation to the tenant by keeping the place heated and cooled? Or do I wait for the unit to fail? Do I roll that dice, or do I say that? So we ended up, I ended up opting to, as luck would have it, an entire unit was available. So instead of buying the $1,100 part, we just bought the $10,000 unit. Wow. So the supply side of things is, it's frustrating. 1,000 square foot apartment, JD, which is an average 2-bedroom apartment. Think of that. It's $400,000 to build.
Sure.
And as a developer, we don't crap money. I mean, we
right.
We use some of our own, we leverage others, but think about that. Just the interest at 5% interest, and by the way, the Fed is meeting today, and everyone expects them to raise rates again,
even higher.
So at 5% interest, that's $20,000 a year just to pay the debt service on that apartment.
Right.
So now, almost instantly, you're at $1,600 a month, and you haven't paid taxes, you haven't paid insurance, you haven't paid maintenance.
Yeah.
So it's it's frustrating for everyone because developers want to build, government wants to help, and we've got all just at the time when we get all of this money for housing, everything and I haven't talked about the labor crisis yet. Right. So just at the time when everything seems to be going our way in terms of funding, rates go up, costs go up, and there's no one around to build anything. For a home, a prospective buyer is going to be facing
5.54% on a 30-year fixed mortgage. That's up 2.76% from a year ago, Tom.
Right, and that's today,
That's
JD.
just today.
The Fed hasn't met yet.
I'm losing track, Tom,
if they
of how much the Fed is raising rates. What is it? Has it been 3 times in the last couple of months?
It'll be interesting. Right? Everyone expects them to raise rates today. I don't know that that's a given because, we've gotten some earnings reports that aren't good. We've gotten some housing start reports that aren't good.
Amazing.
We've gotten some, I guess, depending on how you look at it, inventory levels in terms of new housing have almost doubled. In the past, 6 or 7 months. That's good news in some respects because builders are having to get more creative, having to offer more incentives to people, so that drives the price down, which is exactly what the Fed is trying to do. Right. But they're on a tightrope.
You said this last week. It's a fine, super fine line and tons of gray area.
Yeah.
Josh just said, driving around, I've seen a lot of houses for sale in the city ranging from $80,000 and up.
Yeah.
Michael Booton says, Tom, there's a lot of houses on the market. Is the housing crunch supply of houses or rental properties? If rental, do you think that has something to do with the reaction to COVID from our government, the eviction moratorium, et cetera, et cetera?
We continue to see strong demand on the rental side. I don't have a ton of residential units, probably under, 25.
Yep.
And commercial side, residential side, our tenants have been great. We at the start of COVID, we communicated with them and we said, look, if, we're going to help. You've been a tenant for 5 years. You're a great tenant. if something happens, if you have to go home and you don't have a job, of course, this is, before all the unemployment programs came out and rental assistance. So we haven't experienced that. I really think it is, it's just a supply issue. And it's a supply issue that existed, pre-pandemic, but now it's just, it hasn't gotten better.
Right.
We didn't really notice it during the pandemic, and I don't believe we're quite at an endemic, but we're awfully close. But
Josh is
we didn't
saying,
notice it in 21, and now we are.
Absolutely. Josh is saying that heading south sounds like a great financial move. Wondering how you feel about that. And do you think people are second-guessing their love for the option tax?
I don't know whether people are or not. I don't take a poll. You take the results of the vote, and you know me. You honor the vote, and you implement it, and that's what we're doing.
Sure.
And as far as moving south, I'm a New England boy.
Yeah.
Me too. I could never move like that. I just
when it gets,
hot.
so yeah, I'm not done yet. I still got, I got a ways to go before I cross the finish line.
Yeah.
So no, not for
Visiting's
me. And I
great.
don't know that,
Right.
Housing costs, yes, they're slightly lower as you move further south. You can move into areas where the housing costs are a little bit lower than they are in the Northeast, mainly because of the method of construction. And like in Florida, in Vermont and in New England, you've got to heat and cool. In Florida, you got to heat to some extent, but you're really, concentrating on, insulation is not as huge an issue.
That's right.
So,
But air conditioning is.
I love Vermont. I love New England. So maybe it is for some folks, and yeah.
As a landlord, I've seen a lot of uptick in short-term rentals taking over the long-term rental market. Honestly, short-term rentals don't fall under the eviction laws, and landlords don't trust the moratorium won't happen again.
I get it, but we, look, I only speak for myself, and I'm not going to second guess what other landlords do. We have not gone that route. We've certainly had the opportunity, but we haven't gone the short-term rental route because I think that only exacerbates the problem. And I get it. Again, I haven't. I've, over the past 30 years, we've had a few tough tenants here and there, but for the most part, our tenants are great. So we just, I haven't felt like it's the right thing to do, but I'm not gonna, but when you talk about traveling nurses or other short-term rental opportunities, well, that's part of the, that's part of the equation too. There's some people who do the Airbnb thing, they do the short-term rental thing, and they do it really well.
Right.
I don't, so I probably, Karen and I probably wouldn't do it as well as other people do. But it's all part of it. It's all part of the solution, and you have to look at you got to look at long-term and short-term because both are needed.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
What else happened last night? City council meeting. Recap it for us.
That is a loaded question.
Let's just say that sometimes,
I always throw the broad questions
sometimes when it comes to fiscal management, we have differences of opinion. And last night was
an example?
One of those cases.
Okay.
We had a good discussion, and I'm glad we did. We weren't supposed to have a council meeting last night. I had questions. We're going to set the tax rate next week, which actually should be pretty easy now.
Okay.
Because we got the additional time and had the discussion. So that should be a relatively short discussion about setting the tax rate. But at issue was Section 601B of the Charter.
Okay.
Not a section, when I took office a million years ago, I inherited a deficit. Cemetery fund was upside down. Over the years, the administration had managed the deficit by not managing the deficit. What they kept doing is loaning money out of the general fund to the cemetery fund when the cemetery fund had no prayer at repaying the money.
Okay.
And they held this asset on their books. And so, I don't know, it was 2 or 3, 4 years into office, the auditor said, look, we've brought this to the city's attention repeatedly, and you got to deal with it. And, like many people did before, I ignored it for a few years because it's not fun to deal with a big deficit.
Yeah.
And then, I realized we're not helping anybody by ignoring this. The cemetery fund is underwater. It's a service that people expect and deserve, but it's not, cemetery fund isn't a moneymaker.
Yeah.
And so what we decided to do is we set a path to retire that deficit, and it was tough. So, we didn't have surpluses. In those years, we had surpluses, but they all had to go towards paying off that deficit that had accumulated over, just decades.
They were spoken.
So now the city's sitting with a fairly significant surplus.
Yeah.
And Section 601B of the charter, the city charter, addresses a surplus specifically, and it simply says that the city's allowed to keep 5% of the general fund balance in reserve. So if you take 5% of your expenditures, in our case, I'll just make the math easy. Let's say it's $12 million. 5% of that is $600,000. We are allowed to hang on to $600,000 in the general fund.
Okay.
Some folks would call that a slush fund. Call it whatever you want, but it's the equivalent. If you
Parking meter fund.
No, it's not a parking meter fund. It's
just having fun with
it's
you,
a
Tom.
fund for unexpected expenditures. For example, when fuel prices go up to $6 a gallon, and you already set your budget believing they'd be $3 because they were $3, and all of a sudden they double, and that costs you $133,000 more.
Right.
To bring it back to our reality,
Yep.
it's the equivalent of someone making $50,000 a year having $2,500 in a savings account.
Okay.
So it's
Wow.
not it's a
Wow.
big amount of money because the dollars get bigger, but it's not an unreasonable amount of money. But the charter is, pretty clear. So it looks like we'll be headed towards an excess of 5%, and we'll have to give a modest amount, probably $100,000 or so, back to the voters. And so
Wow.
I wanted to talk about that. And as I was doing the research, it occurred to me, I looked at a vote that was held by the council on December 18th, 2021, where they actually shifted money from the general fund to the capital fund. That vote was defective because it wasn't warned.
Yep.
So I pointed that out to the council and also pointed out that when that vote was held, we hadn't even warned the local options tax. So if the projections hold true, we'll implement the local options tax on 10/1/22 of this year. We'll have it around for 3/4 of the year. It is projected to yield about $750,000 for the city. So if that projection holds true, we'll actually have about $562,000 to put into the capital fund. So I pointed out to the council, I said, I don't know that it's the right time. First of all, your vote was defective, so that money is still in the general fund. Immediately, they said, well, we'll fix that. We'll vote it next week. And I'm like, okay, but when you did the 233, you didn't have the 562 in mind because, honestly, no one thought the local options tax would pass. I shouldn't say no one. There were some people who hoped it would, but I think most people were a little surprised when it passed the way it did. But that's what the voters said, so hey, you live with it. Good for the city. We have capital needs, so we'll have $562,000 in the capital fund and in the infrastructure fund. That wasn't anticipated in December of 21 when that defective vote was held. So the motion was made last night, and and there's still a lot of questions. I mean, 601B is literally a 2-sentence section of the charter, but it is so complex in terms of how you administer it. So I pointed that out to the council, and I said, I don't think it's such a good idea. I think it's a little premature before we have the answer to these questions. I think it's a little premature to just say, hey, we're going to do another 233 and shift that money from the general fund. And I said, and it doesn't quite feel right to me because the voters just gave you $562,000 that you didn't expect when you got the 233. It felt a little premature, JD, and it felt a bit like a money grab. So I couldn't support it. That's all. But a majority of the council did. That's okay. I'll get the answers to my questions, and I think 601B will come a little clearer into focus. I don't think that 233 can affect the 630 fund balance. I don't think we can use it in the calculation. So I think the voters might get a refund anyway. And I've asked for that legal opinion. And like I said, those were some of the answers that weren't available last night. And I said to the council, well, why don't we wait? But they were a little hopped up to
Right, you
transfer
just
that.
wanted to wait until you got those answers
Right,
from
and we'll
the
get
attorney.
the answers. We'll have them within 2 weeks. I could be wrong, but it seems to me, and what I've pointed out, that if you could in fact do that, if an interpretation of the charter says no, you can do that after June 30th, because at June 30th the clock stops, and you got to do the 601B calculation. Well, if you can vote money out of the general fund after 6:30, then 601 really doesn't matter at all, does it?
Right.
Because you could manipulate that fund balance any way you want. And my contention is, look, once 6:30 comes and goes, yeah, you may have bills that come in after 6:30, like we all do. Your telephone bill for June comes in July. Well, that's expected. That's not within the council's control.
Right.
But it certainly is within the council's control when it looks like you're going to have to refund some money to the voters, so you vote to move money out of the general fund before that calculation kicks in. I don't think you can do that. And again, it's all perspective. And for most of the time when I was mayor, we couldn't have any general fund balance. That was in the charter. And in 2012, we went to the voters and said, look, the city's on a roll here. We're doing the big dig. We got all these great projects going, but we really, folks, we need the ability. We got to have some money in reserve.
Sure.
Like someone making $50,000 having $2,500. We're not asking for $2 million in reserve. We're asking for 5% of our expenditures. So if something goes off the rails, the tower truck dies, or we're not scrambling and we're not making this emergency appropriation. And the voters looked at our success with the big dig and some of these other projects, and to me it was, okay, we trust you. We'll allow you to have that 5%, but you got to give anything excess of that. You got to give it back to us, but we will allow you the 5%. And I thought that was a huge vote of confidence on the part of the voters. And so, again, it's all perspective.
Yeah.
I think Councilor Booton might have been serving at that time. No one else was. So it's, a lot of it, like I said, it's just perspective. And
Right. It's all new news to them.
yeah,
So-
and so I just feel very strongly about a strict interpretation of 601B and not manipulating the general fund in such a way as to avoid the obligation to give anything in excess of 5% back. And, again, we all have events in our life that shape us, like hot dogs. And so for me, it's thank you, voters, for letting us have this money. And I'm going to pay close attention, so if we're over that amount, you will receive that money back. You may not receive it back next year because, we got to calculate it first, and that generally, by the time we get our audit, takes until December. But we will give it back to you if in fact we have an excess. And I'm just not one for. Yeah, we'll leave it there.
Booton says, if a counselor wants to have a conversation about an issue that has significant impact, we should have that conversation.
Well, we did.
I appreciate Michael Deering and Tom voting no on calling the question. It was a good conversation.
Well, and that was, look, we have different perspectives, and so we started. Michael Booton and Michael Deering were asking very good questions about the issue, and I had said what I wanted to say, and in sort of mid-conversation, a counselor called the question, which means, stop talking about it, let's vote it. And Michael wasn't done. Michael Booton or Michael Deering, they weren't done asking their questions. So in order to call the question, you need a 2/3 majority to cease discussion. And that vote didn't pass. So the conversation went on, and they were allowed to ask their questions. And, some folks don't like being ask questions.
We got one right here. With the upcoming budget season, do you think the city will tighten their belts and make tough decisions to cut costs like so many residents have to do? Which is what we've been talking about this morning. So.
With an eye on moving the city forward, cutting, when I presided over the council, I wasn't one for just cutting. That's not what this is about. For me, it's about that this refund and this whole discussion for me is about honoring trust, not necessarily cutting. I think if we haven't been able to fill positions, if we're looking to expand certain positions, you're going to have to convince me of that.
Where's our mayor stand on all of this?
Not quite sure. Because I'm not, because some of the positions, it's like, it's a tough one because it's like, okay, he didn't support the implementation of the local options tax, which is going to, and neither did I, and to be fair, neither did I. Not at this time, but it passed. So, and then at one point when I said, look, I don't like the idea of redoing a defective vote now on this 233 when there's so many unanswered questions. And by the way, first of all, you can't even tell me how much is in the capital fund. So why are we adding 233 to it? And by the way, forget the 233. The voters just gave us 562 this year and projected 750 next year. So at one point he had called it irresponsible to do, but I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So you don't support 562, but you'll support 233 or vice versa, or which is it? So, yeah. So I'm not quite sure. I've got to have a conversation. This isn't the last of this conversation because we'll get the answers to those questions. Originally, I was inclined to actually reduce the municipal tax rate at our vote next week for the anticipated overage, excess, that 5% excess. And then and I do appreciate the additional time because as I looked at the calculation and the mechanism behind it,
right,
there's no way we could do that reliably. I couldn't do that. I could estimate it and I'd probably be pretty close, but close isn't good enough. So I changed positions on that and said, look, if there is an excess, we can certainly calculate it by December. By then, it's too late to affect the 22-23 tax rate. We can affect the 23-24 tax rate. So even though the charter says subsequent budget year, 601B, there's no practical way to achieve that. So I understand what the charter says. We're going to honor the intent of the charter, which is if there's an excess, give it back. But we can't do it in the subsequent budget year because we'd be guessing. And if we guess wrong, we're going to put the city in a bad position. So, if we refund money that we shouldn't have because our calculation was over.
Then you're going to need it back.
Yeah, then we're going to be looking for it back. Sure. So it doesn't bring stability to the tax rate. So, again, if there's an excess, so I appreciated the extra time.
And our new city manager is
he's drinking from a fire hose. He's an energetic young guy. And look, it's a big job. So right now, in terms of where he stands in all of this, I'm not really. He's acclimating to the job and drinking from the fire hose.
Right.
So,
huge shoes to fill,
and still unpacking.
I don't know.
Yeah,
probably
we're not that close.
Probably still unpacking.
I like him, but we're not that close. I have not observed his suitcases.
Yes, but he's got to be he's got to be fascinated with everything that's going on here, or maybe scratching his head saying, "What in the hell have I gotten into?"
No, because the discussion never got to the level of hot dogs. Okay, we have opinions and we have discussions, and I have to understand sometimes that there are social issues that certain members of the council are much better at working their way through than I am, because I'm a finance guy. So, I've got sort of a leg up when you talk about fund balances and excess and do the calculation. I can do that stuff in 10 minutes. And, yesterday ripped off 3 memos to the council prior to the meeting to,
your rapid fire emails, you mean?
Yeah. So, no, just to provide information, and it wasn't to bury anyone. It was, okay, rather than say all this at the meeting, why don't I give you even though it's only a couple hours, sorry, but a couple hours is better than nothing. I'm going to give you a couple hours to read it and think about it. And, you know, they weren't so long and complex. I think it was a total of, you know, maybe 6 pages, you know, that someone couldn't have reasonably read them in a few hours and said, yeah, okay, you know, I understand where you're coming from. So it was just an effort to save a little time at the meeting. And you know, we share them with the Times-Argus when I send them. I always say, you know, look, you know, so we're transparent about it. And it makes, I thought it would make the discussion easier. But like I said, it's philosophy and it's fiscal management, and not everyone has the same view that I do. And not everyone has the same perspective because they didn't manage their way. Most members of this council have never had to retire a deficit. It's not fun.
What are you saying Tom, to people in our community that are asking you if you're going to make another mayor run?
Jeez, why you just don't let that go?
Ask you the question.
Look, you know, never is a huge word. There are people, and even in the council chambers, I chuckle when people, I will never support.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never say never.
I can tell people that I feel strongly about certain things, but in terms of, you know, when it comes to Barrie, this city just has I got a big soft spot in my heart for Barrie. And I like where we are. I like where we're going. We're not getting there fast enough. The housing thing in terms of how the city, you know, and I get it. You know, everybody's working hard, but in terms of how quickly we're moving on housing, that makes me a little nervous at times.
Yep.
You know, I think about it, I get, and, you know, unfortunately, huge character flaw. When I get antsy, I get short. I don't want to talk about stuff. I just want to go. And, you know, it's just how I roll.
Yeah.
You know,
I understand.
And
Right, let me take care of the problem. I don't have time to sit here and talk about this
and
stuff.
job own it. So, you know, so that part really makes me nervous. But you know, if I ever felt, but I feel good about overall about where the city is. If I ever felt differently, might I jump in, you know, one more time? I mean, I did at the council level. And thought long and hard about running for mayor, but you know, that's a big commitment.
Sure.
You know, being mayor is
full-time job.
You
Plus,
gotta.
plus.
I don't know that it's full time, but honestly, to do it well, it's 20 to 30 hours a week to do it well, because you're not just you're not just dealing with the council and the manager.
No.
If you're doing the job effectively, you're reaching out to secretaries and commissioners and the administration and making sure that your community is positioned, you know, as state dollars are coming out, state grants, different monies, you make sure that you're positioned to receive your fair share, or maybe more than your fair share, because your job is to advance your city, not, you know, you don't give a damn about any of the city. You'll take all the money from them if you want. And that's a big commitment. And it's a commitment that I made the right choice, because, you know, even aside from the city stuff, the council stuff, the stuff at the firm, Salvador and Babbitt, which is really what I love doing. I love being an accountant. I love numbers, and I love working with small businesses.
Yes.
We have a lot of other development companies and a lot of other work going on as well. So I wouldn't have been able to, you know, I don't know that I could have risen to that challenge at this point in time. So I'm glad I made the decision I made. Yeah. And you know, like I said when I ran, I don't believe where you sit at the table is important. I think having a voice and sitting at the table is important, and I can make a contribution as a city councilor. And you know, for me, it wasn't an ego thing. Some people looked at me and said, "Well, you're going backwards." Right. I'm like, first of all, I've never gone backwards in my life. Okay, I'm just making a contribution to the city, recognizing that I have constraints on my time, and it would be a horrible thing if I couldn't look at myself and say, I'm going to be able to devote the time it takes to do that job and do it well and advance the community like I did when we got the big dig in City Place and Enterprise Alley.
Oh, yeah.
Different circumstances now. So...
listen, we have we're going to wrap
Never
up.
say never.
All right, fair enough. We have a fantastic weekend that is in the pipe here right in front of us.
Yeah, I'm towing the council.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You're doing the downtown towdown?
No, I couldn't get a no.
He swore on a Bible last night that he would not break check.
No, the city council. So I've got to go. Matter of fact, I got to do that today. I got to sometime during the day. I got to rig up my trailer, put the sides on it so we don't lose any of them, yeah. So in the parade.
All right.
So Karen and I will be driving the truck and towing the trailer, and we'll have the council in tow behind us.
1
So I
o'clock.
could get majority votes in the council and one quick brake check.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't even think that.
How come the council's not going to be part of the downtown towdown this year? Do we know? No team.
Well, I mean, look, let's be honest. It's years and years ago, we had younger members of the if you think that towdown is like a cakewalk, it's hard.
Yeah, that's why you're just holding
Yeah,
the
I
mic
pulled my
and
back
talking
out one
about
year
it.
doing it. It is hard to, and so we had a great time. But again, you gotta, I mean, look, your ego isn't worth risking anyone's health, and
Or a thrown disc.
Yeah, so no, the city council.
And Michael Booten can't do it this
City
year.
council
so-
made a decision I agree with and decided not to field a team.
All right. It's going to be an amazing. I mean, the Rotary breakfast. I'm assuming you'll be there. But,
Absolutely, we wouldn't miss it. I mean, that's where you get to see everyone. So it's been a long time coming. I've missed everybody.
Tipping our hat, 2-year hiatus, and tip the hat to Tracy Lewis this morning. Look at this.
I mean,
ton of
just
work.
yeah, she's a force of nature. That young lady.
Yeah, she doesn't start working on this in June. This is it takes all year.
I mean, literally, she sort of debriefs with everybody what worked well, what didn't work well,
Right.
and she starts working on it. She'll start working on it in August of this year.
Yeah, for next year.
Lining people, and you really have to. You got to line people up.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a great weekend. Weather looks a little iffy for tomorrow, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And then it seems to straighten out Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The weather's straightening out, and
we'll be there.
Yeah, we're going to be broadcasting the parade.
Oh, nice.
Yes, we'll be set up right here, right in front of the studios. So please, Tom, throw some candy at me.
Right.
Would you throw some candy
And then we'll
at me,
be
please?
throughout the city during the
well,
day.
first of all, we don't throw candy.
Toss some candy at
No,
me.
we don't throw. We hand.
Candy.
Well, again, you're talking about the future of the city and liability. We nail somebody in the eye with a piece of rock candy, and it's over. We're not talking about fund balance at that point. We're
Right.
shelling out millions of dollars for blinding somebody. So, you hand. And Tracy, it's funny because Tracy has made it crystal clear with every parade participant, whether political, whatever you're doing, you hand the candy. You don't throw it at people.
All right. I'll put my request in right now for some Tootsie Rolls, Tom. Thank you.
How about a pizza? I'll just order a
that's
pizza
fine.
and hand
That's
it to
fine.
you as I hand you the pizza. Well, actually, throwing the pizza. Well, pizza isn't going to hurt anybody. Well, depends on how hot the cheese
Chuck
is.
a hot dog at it.
No,
we
it could
kind
be.
of,
We'll throw hot dogs. we'll have the Williamstown Select Board Memorial's hot dog throw.
my God.
I pick on it. Listen, they're all good people, man. Like I said, we've all had our hot dog moments. I've certainly had my share, and stay tuned, more to come.
Yeah. It's so entertaining to hear a good hot dog fight every now and then. We're going to be serving up some hot dogs today at Vermont Quick Lube from 11 to 2 for Ladies' Day. Raylene and I are going to be over there broadcasting live. All ladies get a flower and a car wash with their oil change, but we're going to be giving away oil changes and mugs and all kinds of
And
stuff
it is
over there.
benefiting the Bisson
The
family.
Bisson family out of Williamstown. So come on over and have some fun with us and serve a great cause, too. Things really starting to shift into gears here. Emsley's the florists. We have the grand opening ribbon cutting tomorrow at 10 a.m.
I'll be there.
Will you? Are you coming to that?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Absolutely, I'm coming to that. I wouldn't miss it.
We have the Berry City
the
Farmers.
young lady who runs that place, love her. Her significant other,
kind of an asshat.
loser. But,
Yeah.
but so I'll be there to support her, just to be really clear.
Right,
Understand.
right.
I understand.
I wouldn't throw a hot dog for that other guy.
We have the farmers market this afternoon at 3:30. right here in the city at the Pearl Street Pedway. We have the Food Truck Thursdays and Concerts in the Park going on. Thunder Road on Thursday tomorrow. And Tracy was telling me yesterday, by the way, right around, I think just under 100 entries for the parade.
Yeah. It's bizarre.
And like the day before yesterday, it was like 70.
Yeah.
So this
I am
is
so
huge.
happy that we'll be at the front. Because I haven't seen,
Yeah, right.
I
parade
didn't
for a
see
long
a parade
time.
for
Yes.
years and years and years and years, and so I've enjoyed them for the past 4, and it's like,
Yeah.
here I am again.
All right. Well, we're going to have some fun with you when you pass by, Tom. I might throw myself on the hood and have some fun with you, but just be ready. Be ready.
If you throw yourself on my hood, you better be ready.
I love it.
I'm just kidding. I
Thanks.
love you. You know that.
Tom, thank you so much for coming in here. We love having you.
I love being here. I love talking about Barry and what's going on and
Yeah.
and the future and how
Yes.
great it's going to be.
Yes. By the way, before we forget, the Mountaineers suffered a loss last night. It was a great game. We were there. Were you there?
I wasn't.
It was a fantastic, just perfect night at the ballpark. But they're going to be back at it tonight. This is the final game of the regular season, 6:30, first pitch, Recreation Field in Montpelier. So come on out. Bring the family. Grab a hot dog and watch the game tonight. Tom, thank you again
Thank you.
so much. Raylene,
Thanks, Raylene.
congratulations again to Raylene on
Thank
the
you.
Planning Commission. So now all of my dumbass questions will
Will still be dumbass, but they will get answered.
Yes.
thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
God bless. Take good care of one another. We'll catch you again real soon.